Hi everyone and welcome back to Business 100, Introduction to Business. I promised you a little bit more information on report number 2. So in our last video, we talked about an overview of all of the reports that you have for our course. And remember, I'm on our Canvas homepage, and by now you've done some homeworks looking at external businesses. You've done some chapters in our textbook. And then we've started to write reports, right? And I reminded you that the first and the third reports are about a business of your own choosing, a business idea of your own choosing. And I showed you that if you open up any of the report links, here's report 1. Don't worry about the due dates if they don't match your course. Remember, this is an all-purpose video. On your home screen, you'll see the correct due dates. But I showed you that if you open up the link, you'll see a template and some bulleted information and some little tables that will help you get started. And the assigned chapters in the textbook will also help you understand the components of each report. So report 1 and report 3 are different components of a business idea that interests you, a business idea of your own choosing. You're essentially creating your own feasible business. It doesn't have to be an existing business, but I told you that if you're already working with an existing business, you can continue to work with that. You do have to do your own work for our class. So don't show me a business plan that somebody else wrote. You have to make your own reports and include your own components, all right? Now, no business is going to be complete without financial data. But because we're not assuming that you already have an existing and financially successful and sustainable business, we can't use business financials to do our second report. So remember, report number 1, you're just naming the business, you're doing the industry analysis, the SWOT analysis. Report number 3, we're going to continue with that idea. We're going to look at marketing, operations, and management. So I showed you where some of that information lives, and I showed you where to find the links in my Canvas homepage. But I also showed you for the second business report that you want to begin with this link right here, collecting your own financial data. Now, before I start opening up tabs here, let me give you another overview of the second report. So this video will focus really on our second report. You're going to do 3 things. You're going to create 2 financial documents. One is the income and expense sheet, what businesses call the profit and loss statement. For your personal finances, we're just going to look at your own personal income and your own expenses. Now, sometimes students tell me, well, I don't have an income. I get money from my family. That's great. If you're living on the bank of mom and dad, do that for as long as you can. But eventually, you're going to have a job. You're going to have some money. If somebody's giving you an allowance, if somebody set up a savings account for you, that's fine, but that essentially works as your income. So the money comes from somewhere. What are you spending it on? If you're still living at home, again, ride that pony for as long as you can, but you may have an allowance and you may spend that allowance on clothing, school supplies, maybe some food. So you still have money coming in and money going out. And so tell me, I get an allowance and I spend it on entertainment. You still need to create the documents. Many of you are already working. And again, during certain economic times, our finances, our financial conditions change. That's okay. We're taking a snapshot look at what your financial circumstances are right now. And then we're going to do some financial planning on you. We want to make sure that you achieve your financial goals. So we're going to start with where you're at. Maybe you have an apartment. Maybe you have some roommates. And so what is your money coming in from your part-time work? And it may fluctuate. It may be seasonal. And then what are you spending your money on? What's your portion of the rent, your utilities? Maybe you have a car payment. Maybe you have some insurance. So we're going to create the income and expense statement. The other financial document that we're going to create is a balance sheet. And again, you do not need to have taken accounting. This is really just your own personal finances. We're going to keep it really simple. Your balance sheet is really what do you have, what do you own, and what do you owe. Now, what you own in financial speak, in our financial language, has to have some value in a marketplace. So you might have things that are meaningful to you, but the question is, could you turn around and sell it on eBay tomorrow? Does it have a financial value? And everyone knows that what you sell it for tomorrow is not what you bought it for yesterday, right? So it's current market value. So I'm creating this video because I'm working from home right now. I'm creating this video at my dining room table. I have this wonderful, great wood table that probably cost a fortune when it was new. I happened to get it used. I could probably sell it for a couple $100, I'm guessing, maybe not. And it might have been worth a good deal more than that when it was brand new, but it's not new right now, right? So it's what's current market value. I'm also making this video on an ancient Dell laptop that probably has no market value, right? If this laptop turned defunct tomorrow, I would have to recycle it and buy a new one. So even though I have equipment that I'm using, it might actually not be worth much on the market. So what's the current value? And I'll talk more about the balance sheet when I open up that document and show you. You know, most people have a car. Does it have market value? And that's what you own. Do you have a home? What's it worth on the market? But then most people, if you have cars and homes, also have loans, right? You have a car loan, you have a mortgage on your home. And so your personal net worth, we're not going to deal with business accounting. We're just going to deal with your personal finances. It's the sum of what you own that has value. And that's your cash, your tangible items, and then also your investments and your long-term property. And then we subtract out what you owe, the loans against those things, or your credit card debt. And so the difference between the two, we're going to call that your personal net worth. So for this assignment, let's go back to the assignment for a minute. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this. For this assignment, I want you to look at what's your income and expense. What's your money coming in and where are you spending it? And then I want you to look at your net worth. What do you own and what do you owe? We're going to keep it super simple. And what you're going to do is you're going to get this snapshot look at your personal finances. And right away, if you're like most people, you're going to go, oh, wow, I could save more money. Well, you can save more money by earning more money and spending less. Well, if you're looking at your expenses, can you shave a little bit of your, can you go out to eat a little bit less? Can you maybe get rid of one of your entertainment subscriptions? How can you save money? One of the reasons that we go to college is so that we can eventually get a job that earns us better income, and then we can earn more money. So I want you to have a sense of where you can save some money. What are we going to do with that money? Well, let's go back to the balance sheet. Let's start thinking about what can we invest in that won't lose value over time. I talked about my dining room table. It's sturdy. I'm getting good use out of it. But eventually it loses value over time. It wears out. Same thing with my laptop, which wears out much faster because it's technology. Those things get used up over time. Same thing with our clothing. Same thing with our cars. Property tends to gain in value over time. Now, property markets, I'm not going to talk about real estate, but property tends to go up in value over time. And the stock market tends to go up in value over time, although it can be very volatile. It can fluctuate. You can read up on that. It's beyond the scope of our class. But what I want you to start thinking about is, how can we save money? And then how can we invest in things that will gain value over time? Because if you can do those things, if you can save money, take that money and invest it in something that goes up in value over time, then we can start to increase our net worth, and then we can start to accomplish our financial goals. So the two financial documents that you're going to do for this assignment are the income and expense statement, the balance sheet, and you're going to do goals, your own personal goals. So let me pull it all together and show you what it looks like. We're going to start with this right here. I showed you this briefly in our last video. collect financial data. I already showed you this. I'm going to go through it quick. Where's your money coming from? What are you spending it on? You can make your own document. You can use a template from the textbook. You can find a template online. Don't buy fancy software. You can make a spreadsheet. That's fine. Turn it into a PDF file. That'll be one component of your report. All right? So that's going to become the income and expense statement. You need to collect your data because you need to know what you're spending money on over time. All right. Collect financial data for 1 month. Now, let's go down to report number 2. Again, don't worry about due dates. Your own class will have its own distinct due dates. But I'm going to open up report number 2. And I showed you this briefly. These are the components. Your income and expense statement, the balance sheet, and then our goals. And then you're going to write a plan on how you're going to achieve your goals. The textbook has more information on the balance sheet, so I'm going to cover this briefly. This is just my cheat sheet to get you started, but I talked about, actually that's your goals worksheet. I'll come down here to the balance sheet. What's the cash you have on hand? Your checking account, your savings account? What are your tangible assets? You'll find better templates online and in the textbook. This will just get you started. Remember, I talked about your furniture, your car, your electronics. If you sold them tomorrow, what would they be worth? So you have monetary assets. An asset is something you own. You have tangible assets. And then you might have investment assets. Liabilities are what you owe. Short-term liabilities and long-term liabilities. So long-term would be that mortgage and the car loan. Short-term liabilities are going to be bills that you have that are going to take you longer than 1 month to pay off, but you'll probably pay them off within the year. So if you have a credit card balance you're paying down, now you might make a $200 a month payment toward your car every month. The monthly payment that you make actually shows up on your income and expense statement. That's a monthly expense. And as you do, then the liability goes down. Right? If you're paying off your credit card, the monthly payment that you make shows up on your expense every month. And then the balance of the liability will go down. So the balance sheet is a snapshot look at what do you own and what do you owe in the moment, and the difference between the two, total assets minus total liabilities, is your net worth. This link right here will take you back to the financial data page that I just showed you. Here's the final piece, and I've only got a minute or two left in this video, but I want to show you the final piece. This is what ties it all together. Once you know whether or not you're saving money, and once you know what your net worth is, I want you to start listing your goals. And usually we break them down into short-term, medium range, and long-range goals. What's your goal? When do you want to achieve it by, and what's it going to cost you? Maybe you want to take a trip to Europe, and you're going to do that in 5 years, and it's going to cost you $5,000, so you want to save $1,000 a year over the next 5 years. What are the action steps you need to do to make that happen? Maybe your goal is to invest in a home, long-range goal, and you want to do that in 10 years. You only need to put 10 to 20% down, maybe a little bit less than that if you can get some good financing. So do some research. How much money would you need for a down payment? Now, what are the action steps? And try to make it somewhat feasible, but create a little table here. I grade based on detail. I really like to see a lot of detail in your goals. And then what I want you to do is I want you to answer these questions. How are you going to get there? How are you going to get from where you are right now to achieving these goals? So we're going to create the financial statements, we're going to create our goals, and then we're going to close the gap between where do we want to be and how are we going to get there. Email me if you have questions. I look forward to seeing your work.